Listen, you lifted the veil. You're the black sheep. You're the scapegoat. You escaped. The escape code. You have the escape code because you're the scapegoat. Alright? And you're the black sheep and you lifted the veil. And little did you know what you're doing, but retrospectively, it all makes sense. So let me explain to you what happened and give you some knowledge. My message is a circle created from philosophy, psychology, and spirituality within, okay? So, first of all, I want to ask you, who was Nietzsche? Because I asked that myself. And not the way we as readers perceive him, because everybody has a own interpretation and feeling and creates their own object relationship to Nietzsche. This is object relationship, or based on that object relationship of what we read, we create an introduct of Nietzsche. But what I want to ask is, how did Nietzsche perceive himself? So, in other words, through reading books, we have the object relationship to the external Nietzsche that lives in the world. But we create an introject in ourselves, which is Nietzsche's representation in ourselves. That's when I talk to Nietzsche, I talk to the introject in my mind. You see, I'm not crazy. All right. But how does Nietzsche perceive himself? And my answer to this is, he called himself Dionysus, so he identifies with the archetype, the Greek god Dionysus, which leads me to the assumption that he is like Carl Gustav Jung, an intuitive introvert. By the way, Carl Gustav Jung's work is based on Nietzsche's work. In other words, Nietzsche's life only makes sense through internal processes, not through external grandiose events. Second, he died very young and still seemed to be, he was the youngest professor ever in history. In other words, he lived a whole life in a very short period of time, and one of his biggest works, or culmination, his biggest work is Thus Spoke Zarathustra, and in this work, it's almost like an autobiographic story. So it's kind of the essence of his philosophy and life translated into a mythical romantic story, something like that. Sorry, don't quote me here. It's not perfectly expressed, I think. And Zarathustra is a representation of the sage, the wise old man, and is torn back and forth between isolating, self-isolating, retreating from the herd, from the people, and gaining wisdom, getting insight, but then the wish to share this love and knowledge, because philosophy is the love to knowledge, with the people, and this goes back and forth. All right. So why do I ask you this in front of this reading? Because we have cluster B personality disorders, and these are the dramatic ones. They create drama in the world. They need grandiose stories. They need betrayal fantasies. And what it takes to be cluster B and what it takes to not be cluster B is important to understand. And as an intuitive introvert like Nietzsche was and Carl Gustav Jung was, you have the as a healthy person also, you have object relation and introject relation. It means you connect to the world and people as external entities like you, but at the same time you have a representation of them within yourself when they are gone. So when you have this run-in, these operational systems running, these mental concepts working, Um, and you're an intuitive introvert, it means you have the connection to the object relation, to the world, and whatever happens there, you can process it inside, make sense of it. It will create a whole world of archetypal, symbolic meaning in your subconsciousness and also in your consciousness. And artists use art to express this. Um, And this means you don't have to live it out, act it out. It means you have access to both worlds, the real world and the fantasy world. And this leads to a regulated person and to a productive person. Because you can call cluster B also cluster P, because these are parasitic predators. Okay, so dramatic parasitic predators. The cluster B, P, 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 P. Okay, um, and what is the cluster B? Basically, is 5 personality disorders. I'm not going in depth. The most important is borderline, narcissist, and psychopath. And it's like the narcissist and the borderliner are like people with a injury from childhood, but a part of them, part of that what makes a human being is still alive. So in the borderliner, the introject gets the inner world gets killed, destroyed, no access. Okay, so therefore the drama has to be externalized. Everything is external. The meaning of life is projected into people. The blame, the anxiety, everything is in people. The emotions of a person that should be internal are happening in the world, projected. It must happen. Okay, believe me. In the narcissist, exactly is the opposite. In the narcissist, the external world is destroyed. Therefore, the narcissist lives as a omnipotent god in a fantasy, divorced from reality. Okay, simple as that. So, borderliner, one side is dead, the inside is dead. In the narcissist, outside is dead. Okay, and this explains the personality disorder, which is not funny. And ironically, both borderline and narcissist have no functioning reality testing. They are in a shared fantasy and they are fully invested into this. They believe it as well. Therefore, they don't gaslight and don't lie. They believe it as well. All right, they in the boat. Ironically, the psychopath has everything killed, outside and inside, yet he's highly functional. How is that possible? I don't know, it's possible. What happens is the psychopath is detached from external people and internal world, is callous, no feelings, emotional repression of anxiety and shame and everything. Doesn't matter. The psychopath is invested in goals only, okay? Loves goals. And therefore, the psychopath translates her goals into emotions. So, because they can't go to you and tell you, you know what, I want your service, I want your sex, I want your money. No, this doesn't work this way. They have to translate their goal, what they want, into emotional and socially acceptable words. And they can do it. And yeah, and I could tell you the same for what narcissists and borderliners do. Narcissist wants narcissistic supply, sex, service, supplies, sadism. Psychopath often also showcase sadism, and borderliner probably something like that. I don't know. Okay, don't ask me. That being said, it's already 10 minutes. Let's get to the message. All right. I got water there. You know, a narcissist and a borderliner will create a pseudo hostile family, which means, yes. Oh God, somebody walking outside, seeing me, and I say hello. Oh God. Okay. So the borderliner and the narcissist will create, when they are the head of a family cult, they create a pseudo hostile family, which means negative behavior is rewarded, because let me just talk about narcissists and pretend they are the same as borderliner. Narcissist has no access to positive emotions, is often guided by a bad object introject, a dead mother introject, that keeps informing them how unlovable they are. So this creates a lot of cognitive dissonance because they have a grandiose self. So there is a strong war going on. It's a voice that informs the narcissist he's unlovable, but there is another voice that says, I am God itself and entitled over everybody around me. People around me, in fact, don't exist, but are internalized uh, possessions of me. This is the narcissist, all right? I possess people. It's all mine, or it is nothing. So, excuse me. Um, it means they do, and they do in training. They act out. They act within the fantasy. They have no reality testing, and it means you cannot get away. It's very contagious and infective, therefore. Psychopath is much more surgical and not so stanching, not so uncanny, more surgical. I don't say one of each is more or less dangerous. I say narcissism is very uh, it's uncanny. You feel it, it's smelly, and you can't do anything about it because this person is in his delusion. And when you're exposed to the fantasy, the person will act, every reaction, the mimic, the microseconds of how a human being responds is all based only on the introject of the narcissist. They are not there, right? So they use in training to reward negative behavior because they want to bring people down to their level, okay? Therefore, the family of a narcissist is pseudo-hostile. It means everybody needs to be externalizing conflict, needs to act rough, show negative behavior. In other words, don't be better than the narcissist. If you would show signs of internal emotional processing, um, trying to self-regulate, trying to set yourself apart, do it a little bit better, not raging out all the time, you would possess the grandiosity as a possession of the narcissist, as an introject of the narcissist, to be better than the narcissist. This will lead to great frustration in a child and great vengeance. You can't deviate from the introject, can you? Okay, so this creates a pseudo hostile family, but when there is a psychopath around, it will always be the head of the family. The psychopath is domination, okay? And the psychopath is functional. She has reality testing, is only invested in her goals. All right, why is that? Yeah, again, in the borderline or the narcissist, just a part of what makes a human being is destroyed, is impaired, and the personality organizing principle is a compensatory mechanism for this. In psychopathy, the psychopath is successful in shutting off all internal or external emotional attachments, and therefore becomes highly functional and even attains reality testing. So it's a little bit ironic, but it's just the way it is. So why does the scapegoat, the black sheep, lift the veil? And what is the consequence of that? I gotta hurry up a little bit. So again, if you have a psychopath as top of the family cult, you will have a pseudo-mutual family, which means the family will seem very peaceful to the outside and no conflicts, everything is fine, everything is perfect. Because the psychopath has the goal to create this. To do this, they will try to dysregulate as many people around them in the close, they need slaves, okay? So narcissists and borderliners are easily manipulatable and are make perfect slaves because the psychopath can enter them via the shared fantasy. They need to create a shared fantasy for the narcissist or the borderliner, which the borderliner or the narcissist will love to take this bait. And then the psychopath can align, make the access to this beautiful, crispy escape world. The shared fantasy is an escape from the border for the borderliner or the narcissist from reality. That's what they need. And to access this, the psychopath will be able to align the shared fantasy with their goals. Voila, you have a zombie. You have a person that pursues the goal of the psychopath and thinks they do it because they do it for themselves. But it's a deeply codependent, conditional, transactional trap. The psychopath is like a spider having these people in their web now, right? And is used to create a pseudo-mutual family. Victims of this, so children or other vulnerable people who are not part of the cult in this completely devoted way, like real enablers and other and dysfunctional, unstable personalities who are like woven together by the psychopath into a structure. They will show, they are trained not to show, like in the pseudo hostile family, to show bad behavior. They are trained to show harmony. They are trained to show good behavior, but it's not free, it's not real. That's the twist, the turn around it. It's not everybody is free to express their true full potential of what a human being is, because this is exclusive to healthy people. Both the psychopath, the narcissist, or the borderliner, none of them knows. They don't know what emotional access and access to the world at the same time is. And therefore they hurt people without knowing hurting them as well. Is indifference. They're indifferent about it. The sadists are not indifferent about it. A sadistic person will do it and then get smile at you, get aroused, excited by doing this. Okay. All right. So the psychopath creates a pseudo-mutual family, and what it shows in these vulnerable targets like children or other people that enter this uncanny space of dead people pretending to be a peaceful family. It can show in the skin, in autoimmunity diseases will flare up, inflammation in the body. It can be in the eyes, some flickering, some nervous repressed things, because all these people are forced to comply to the picture. The picture is the goal of the psychopath, and the goal of the psychopath is the highest in the hierarchy. The goal is to create the picture of a pseudo-mutual family, no matter what. It's not real expression and real, it's not really everything allowed, and this system is based on exclusion of authentic people who speak their mind. All right, and this is you. You might have said something like, what do I want here? There is nobody on my level here, which is a grandiose statement. But at this time you thought these people are real, you can criticize them. There is the ability to be vulnerable, to be open. You were operating like your inner child. You lift your inner child to your crown chakra, okay? It means you carry self-love, you are in the abundance mindset. It means you share your power, you share with people, you take the poorest street dog and put them to your level, look in their eyes straight and say, I'm sharing what I have with you. This is abundance mindset. This is not scarcity. And ironically, this creates hate and envy in them because they could never do this. They act from scarcity mindset. All right. And in other words, they see, oh, this person saves me, this person gives me everything. It gives me life, gives me space, shares his power with me. And now they have not a concept for respect and gratitude, because this would be harmony, real harmony. This would not be a pseudo mutual or pseudo hostile family. Therefore, they start to compare themselves to you, but they know they can't compare themselves because this was the abundance mindset. This was sharing. They can't share. They scarcity. They want it all for themselves. They want to be that. And they know they can't. This creates exclusion. So, therefore, I say, who exclude others excludes themselves. Because what happened, I tell you, you carried this inner child, as I said, the self-love on a high level, and you share it. I love myself. I love the world. I love life. I have access to this. I can share it. And now they want to break this down. All right. You said something very grandiose. You said there is nobody here for me on my level. You shared everything. You show all of this. You grandiose. You make grandiose statements there, and this shows the psychopath that it's time to break you down, to break you off. You know too much. You have too much inside knowledge, and you can't be possessed. You can't be uh, woven into that net. Anyway, so now what they want to do is they want to repress your inner child into the basement. They want you to become bitter, resentful like they are, because that's what their inner child was in the basement, was captivated for 30, 40 years. All right, and now they want to push yours over too, to put it down into the root chakra, become like a tyrant, like a infantile, frustrated child. No, that's not you. They couldn't do this to you. All right. Now the problem now is they realized that they have been driven by death drive, by a bad object, by a dead mother introject that keeps informing them that they are unlovable. Therefore, they act hateful and exclude other people. They act from the scarcity mindset. Now they realize this. They realize they have followed a bad voice, an evil voice. And they thought it's the good voice. No. And what happens now is that you speak as their inner child. So what you say, what you speak, the truth that you reveal, what you showed everybody, everybody knows it. Everybody starts to see this. So that even they see it. You have the voice of the inner child. Not only yours, all those theirs. Now they realize their own inner child says, what you say is true. Everything you said is true. Therefore, they see the good voice, the real voice of what they authentically could be, has been repressed forever and was overshadowed by a bad introject. And because they did not manage to get you to the same level, they realize that they fooled themselves, because now the personality disorder kicks in even more, because that's exactly what narcissism and borderline tries to suppress. The shame, the anxiety of killing one's self-love. Long ago, the inner child is dead. There's just some alien, foreign, external bad object introject in their mind, informing them that they are unlovable. or that they, I don't know. Okay, and now you was, as long as you was there, you was the emotional sponge. You took in all that negativity, and this shared fantasy they had was so sparkling and crispy and nice. The betrayal fantasy, everything was. They managed to get it through. They made the perfect betrayal. They traumatized their children, and abandonment trauma for the children, just like they had. They managed to do all of this, but it was the bad voice, the bad introject. It was evil, and you you still have the self-love, the compassion, the forgiveness, the grandiosity. You still have that. Now there must be something right about you, and now this shared fantasy is worn out. When they were talking, when you were still there, they were talking together, conspiring, had you as a mutual enemy. They could project everything on you. This is not anymore possible. Now, when they now talk, they whisper. When they now talk, they can't even trust themselves anymore. They don't believe their own shared fantasy anymore. Right? Because their inner child tells them what you say is true, the truth. So they can't dare their own fake voice and narration anymore. Even when they're in the locked in cult, the cult is closed now. What happens is that this conflict they externalized and projected onto you falls back on the people, and they show that they now need quickly a new shared fantasy, something new that is sparkling, something that is fresh, something. The psychopath will be feverishly looking for a new goal-driven shared fantasy that he can infect everybody around them. Psychopath quickly takes financial control of everyone around them and everything. Narrative control, financial control. All right? And now they need a new goal-driven fantasy that can be translated in a shared fantasy with everybody around in order to keep this machine running. But you, as the scapegoat, as the black sheep, you have lifted the veil, and what happened is the voices have revealed who is who. And it's great that you have been able to keep your inner child on the crown level. General, the general, Jah Rastafari, blessings. Yes, you did that. And it shows. And now they realize that they have their child in the basement repressed. And this now even makes the personality disorder worse because, again, narcissism, borderline psychopathy is a repression of exactly that. The true self-love, the connection to self, to emotions, to the world. Rastafari, one love, to the world, one blood. Easy. Out.